or ask me anything in the chat. By the way, this is my first live stream with super chats enabled, so that's pretty cool. This is a new era. The corruption of this channel begins. Visna says hi. Hello, Visna. What? Heather says, hey Don, do you remember me? Yes, I remember your name, Heather. You've got to be kidding me. God1 says second IG. You're not the second person here. PE says neighbors outdoor cat sleeping in the bed tonight cause she the homie. Oh, cool. Bree says, hi Don, I'm not late this time. You're not, I just started the stream. Larry Edit says, me reading boring shit. I mean, actually, much of the time it's not boring. Visna says, hi, I was the first. Yeah, you were the first in this live stream. Mad Rush says, hi Don, wave emoji. Hello, Mad Rush. Excuse me for 1 second. Reflect says, what's up Don, how you been doing? Good, thank you, Reflect. Kenshi says, nice hair today, Don. Thank you, Kenshi. Heather says, sorry, my chat cut out for a second, so I didn't hear you. Do you remember me? Yes, I remember your name. PE says, I was a loser before it was cool. Okay. Charles says, how old are you? I am an adult. That's all I'll say. Bree says, I like the new lighting. Yeah, I do too, compared to what it was before. Last time it was kind of like, earlier it was like this void, but now it's much lighter. Mad Rush says, missed you last night. I'm here now. Hello, Mad Rush. Kate says, hi. Hello, Kate. John says, Dong Benitez. Dong Benitez. Okay. God1 says, I guess I am seeing you first time, so much happy and smiling so hard. No, this is not unusual. Gustavo says, hablas español. I don't speak Spanish. Pink Fur says, you looking good tonight. Thank you. PE says, following the rule of thirds, I see. I am. My stream is. I forget what the rule of thirds is. AK says, sup, little bro. How are you doing today? I'm doing good, thank you. GV says, zombie emoji. Okay. Mad Rush says, you're in a better mood tonight. I am. Okay. Visna says, my favorite color, gray. Your favorite color is gray too? Okay. Anonymous says, Don, start doing day streams too. Day streams? That'll happen eventually, but for now it's night streams. Walker says, just in case you haven't been told, today you're awesome, you're awesome. Thank you. Yusuf says, what time is it in your country? I'm not gonna say exactly, but it is nighttime. Easy says, Jesus loves you. I don't believe in that, but thank you. The Ass Clown says, night is better for streams. I mean, I think I'd prefer to do it in the daytime, to be honest, but because of my situation, it's better for nighttime. Crusader says, do your colleagues know that you're gay? No, because I'm not gay. Elbow says, I don't really be on here, but I got a question, sorta. I always hope for the best in people, but I genuinely lack empathy. Is that a red flag? I guess it is. Callie says, hello, finally got a live. You go on pretty early, haha. Yeah, this stream is an early one compared to the other ones. Jeffrey says, white people are cool as fuck. Okay. David says, is there port in the back of your head so you can jack into the Matrix? A port? I don't have that. Like an HDMI port in the back of my head? No. Andre says, same shirt, Don? Yeah. Same polo shirt. Madarush says, was watching a movie, now watching you. You should watch your movie. Movies are better than this stupid thing. Supremacist Leader says, greetings from North Korea. Hello, Kim Jong-un. Civi says, bro, do you have a life cause you only live, no shorts or videos? Yes, I just, I like going live. That's my thing. Callie says, should wear green one day. I mean, I am wearing green right now, this t-shirt. This is like the first time I've ever worn green, actually. Moon says, commenting to support, leaving because I value sleep. Wise. Says, Jesus loves you despite your disbelief. Despite my disbelief. Well, thank you. Yusuf says, it's 6 a.m. I use this to sleep. You fall asleep to this? Cool. PE says, Hunter Green Puffer would be boss on you. I'm not into puffers. Madarush says, do you have a middle name? Yes. Callie says, I was gonna say it looked green, haha. I was gonna pay for it, but the dark green is beautiful. Kudos, dude. I mean, I would have preferred a lighter green, but it is what it is. Too Far says, I missed you last night, Don. Hello, Too Far. I saw you in a loft stream. Down with the system says, Kim Jong-un. Okay. Me says, what do you do this for? I mean, a factor is entertainment, obviously, just for myself. Too Far says, loft stream. Yeah, the popping up Blu-ray guy. Ducky says, you look like a vampire and you look nice. Thank you. Rant says, uwu. Okay. God says, it's a 50-50 chance at the end of the day that Jesus exists. I mean, personally, I'm certain that he isn't divine. Claus says, even Queso says twin. Queso says the word twin. It's in his vocabulary. It's not in mine. Jeeves says, what's your favorite flavor of chips? Cool Ranch. Too Far says, I have no idea what you're talking about. Okay, well, I was in a live stream and I thought I saw you in the chat, but I guess I'm mistaken. Van Diesel says, what is the meaning of life? That's unknowable. Skills says, seems like you are at a boring part of life. Maybe, maybe not. Too Far says, I'm glad you're thinking about me in places I'm not. Okay. Madarush says, do you ask out older girls because Gen Z have too many pronouns? I'm not, that doesn't affect me. Ashley says, we all find our own meaning. I like the sound of that. Vlad says, if Albert succeeds from Canada, should they become an American state? If Alberta secedes, should it become the USA? Sure, that sounds cool. but I really don't know. Crystal says, do you purposely stand under the light? What do you mean? PE says, define canned beef. Beef in a can. Mech says, what is your favorite game, bro? Red Dead 1. Pan says, you know Myanmar? That sounds familiar, but I don't know. Rant says, can you please remove the chat cooldown? You know, I'll do that. I haven't done that in a while. That sounds exciting. Now it's gone. Nothing to see here says, when are you gonna ruffle your hair for us? I mean, maybe I'll do it subconsciously, but I don't plan on doing that voluntarily. Jessica says, I like to eat ice cream. Am I a psychopath? No. Bree says, the chat is gonna start going crazy. Yeah, it might. Sample says, can you scream? I could, but I don't want to. The Ass Clown says, now we all have the power of moderators. Yeah, but I mean, I read moderator chats more because they're easier to see and pick out, and because I respect them more. Minnesota says, the 569 area code is not yet in use for a geographical region, but it is available for use in the North America numbering plan. Okay. Roman the Great says, Timu Tony Montana. Okay. Thrift says, I love you so much, Don. Thank you. Skill says, seems like you are at a boring part of life and reading comments helps you pass it. I mean, I don't know, but maybe. Too Far says, respect this emoji. Okay, I don't know what you mean by that, but okay. Kenshi says, cars or bikes. Cars. Charles says, I'm a new subscriber with asthma. You're a subscriber to the channel and you have asthma? Okay. The Ass Clown says, respect for $1. Oh, yeah, that's what he was saying earlier. I get it now. Catherine says, you look like Edward the Vampire. I get that a lot. Frizzle says, I love femboys. I love femboys. Good for you. Minnesota says, if you could be so kind and mod me, that would be wonderful. Also, what's your Venmo? I mean, I don't take Venmo or Cash App anymore. I don't mod anyone anymore. It's not a thing. Sorry about that though, because you did try to Cash App me, but it didn't go through. Sorry. Too Far says, hashtag, you are not your asthma. Okay. Kelt says, hey, Benny boy, how have you been? Good, thank you, Kelt. Tucka says, I use an air compressor to get my ham deeper in my ear. You use a tool to get something deep in your ear, to get it inside? I don't know why you would want to put something in your ear. That's bizarre. I'll do a 10-second slow mode. Sec says, sup. Hello, Sec. Too Far says, is the mod still expiring after a month? Yes. Tucka says, I use an air compressor to get ham deeper in my ear. I read that. PE says, did my victims deserve it? No. Draco says, would you get an R9 haircut? No. No, I don't want Jinxie's haircut. Rant says, lick my balls? No. Crystal says, would you ever take your word back? Maybe. Heather says, if I mailed you a shirt with Bieber's face on it for Christmas, would you wear it? No. Too Far says, I'm trying to find this Laffy guy. Am I spelling it wrong? You spell it like that. Dottie says, hey, honey. Hello, Dottie. Chang says, I have 93 kids in my basement. You should let them free. Minnesota Picker super chatted $5 and says, is it okay? I understand that the Ebony people might get mad. That is unfortunate. I don't know what you mean, but thank you for my first ever super chat ever on YouTube. Feel free to clarify what you mean by that. Rajat says, do you like weird Yu-Gi-Oh mascots? Bro Benitez maybe? I'm not into Yu-Gi-Oh at all. Minnesota says, it's YouTube backwards. Salute emoji. YouTube backwards. Let me read it again. Is it okay? I understand that the YouTube people might get mad. That is unfortunate. The YouTube people might get mad. I don't get it still. Dottie says, Minnesota, why did you use your mom card to give Don money? No comment. Too Far says, oh, that was me in his stream laughing my ass off. I never watch his stuff, but it popped up last night when you weren't there. Crying emoji. Okay, so I wasn't going crazy and I saw you in a different live stream chat. Okay. Miguel says, you look like Walken's lost son. Okay. Down says, nonchalant final boss. I'm nonchalant. Okay. Dottie says, Don, can I sniff your shirt? No. Kelt says, you are wrenching people? Cool. Wrenching people. I don't... What's that? Is that hurting people? Flame says, there are 500 witnesses that testified of Jesus. I mean, I don't think believing in God should be like a court case, like evidence thing. I think it should be, in your face, but maybe I'm wrong. Callie says, oh yeah, I got the cash button. Yeah. Callie says, hello, Dottie. You're greeting Dottie. Most people don't like her. KM says, your voice is weirdly addictive. Thank you. Chang says, if oranges and orange is orange because orange is not orange because orange is orange. What? Rye says, Don, how's your day? Good, thanks. Evil says, rap or K-pop? Rap. Forbes says, can I have some of your hair? Yeah, $4,000. Kimberly says, do you like oranges? Yes. Dottie says, time to listen to music and dance. That sounds fun. Too Far says, Flame Warrior, do you get a list of Jesus spam in your notes app? Funny. PE says, do you fuck with pierogies and mixed vegetables? I forget what that is, but no. Spinner says, Don, is it a coincidence that in all your thumbnails you are smiling? I'm not smiling in my thumbnails. Don says, my birthday is Sunday. Okay, I'm excited for you. Seko says, I ate yellow rice, a typical Southeast Asian food. Neat. Dottie says, my husband's forehead looks sexy tonight. We're not together. Callie says, donated $2 with a silly animal gif Thank you, Callie. Sandwich says, you're getting more expressive with each stream. I am? Maybe I am, I don't know. The Ass Clown says, lol, he said I'm excited for you. Yeah, I did say that. Callie says, it's a smiling fox adoring you. Thank you again. Synth says, we finally got the lights on, let's go. Yeah, it's not the void anymore. Jacqueline donated 31 Australian dollars. Jacqueline says, I'm lurking here in the background. Congrats on getting the super chat, heart emoji. Thank you, Jacqueline, for your generous donation of 31 Australian dollars. And thank you for the congrats on having super chats. Not New Me says, hey Don, life is tough today. What did you do? I socialized and ate a Big Mac. Kenshi says, what if I donate a red super chat? I'll be thankful and then move on. Dottie says, I gotta go troll another person's stream. I love you, baby. Bye, Dottie. Minnesota donated $5. Thank you, Minnesota. Minnesota says, Dottie, the only card I'm using is your mom's because you and her are cunts. Okay. You don't like Dottie. Got it. Whatever says, are you a sitter or a stander? In what? Callie says, bye, Dottie. Bye, Dottie. Hope your trolling goes well. Too Far says, I got vaxxed today, Don. So when we meet up, you won't get the flu or COVID. You're welcome. Thank you. Kelt says, who is sitting over there? There's nobody sitting in my room. Jess says, hello, anyone there? I'm here. Mad Dog says, will you shave your eyebrows for $400? No. PE says, jokes on you Too Far. When I meet with Don, he's going to have HIV and HEPB. I hope not. M says, what if you found out the Big Mac sauce was actually semen? I would sit down and just be mind blown and sad and disgusted that I ate all those Big Macs with semen in them, and I would never eat a Big Mac again. Van Diesel says, will I ever find my father? Hopefully. Good luck. Paul says, big black pecker. Okay. Rajat says, do you bring Lunchables to work every day, Benitez? I do not. Madarush says, don't give away hair. Someone can cast a spell on you. If I go hairless, people can cast spells on me? Okay. Minnesota says, people look away to the left or right when answering a question to help focus their thoughts and access information. Yeah, that seems true. Stickman says, aren't you tired? It's like 12 a.m. I'm not. Too Far says, no success in the lucid dreams yet. No success in spawning me in your dreams. Okay. Kelt says, the live stream is data. It is its own point and then not. Interesting. Nmad says, how your night going? Good, thanks. PE says, I already have a voodoo doll of Dawn. I keep it in the water reservoir on my toilet. I mean, I don't believe in the supernatural, so you do you. Go ahead. Matt says, what is this channel about? Just this, me reading your comments. Sean says, have you ever had your balls tickled with a peacock feather? No. Kelt says, did you ever let Noah out of your closet? He's not in my closet. Whatever says, how the hell does my wife almost reverse into me in the driveway? I don't know why. Hopefully she's more careful from now on. Sorry. Jesse says, bro, you look so pissed off and annoyed. I'm not. Emily says, are you Christian? No. Uncle says, I'm convinced people with Down syndrome are secretly geniuses playing a prank on everyone. Okay. Neno says, guys, tell him someone is behind him. There's no one there. Too Far says, Dada, Bada, got a lot of nada. What? Frog says, will you ever do something else than reading live streams? Eventually. Neno says, dammer. Okay. The Synth Wizard says, do you believe Sisyphus is truly happy? No. Ren says, you ever seen the show The Middle? You look like this kid named Brick. I have seen it, and I've been told that I look like that, yeah. And Mad says, I've subscribed on both of my channels. Weird. The Ask Clown says, do people ever think you're pompous, Don? Pretentious? I mean, I don't get that comment a lot. Mostly it's just boring serial killer, not pretentious or pompous. Kenshi says, are you agnostic or totally atheist? I mean, I don't believe in any of the religious texts. I have no faith in those, I'll say that. Gaming says, please meet me at Play Together app. I'm not gonna play video games with you, sorry. Jordan says, holy crap, do you remember me or not? I don't remember you, Jordan, I'm sorry. Raygrove says, what would you do for a Klondike bar? Nothing, I'm not interested in that. A Lad Insane says, have you ever watched Twin Peaks? You have a kind of Twin Peaks vibe. I haven't, but it's on my list. Ricky says, do you like fish? Not really. PE says, crying emoji. Is that about me not seeing Twin Peaks, or? Too Far says, Twin Peaks with a Bowie pick. You gotta be diagnosed with something. You're talking about a chatter that's in my chat? Okay. Debug says, finally monetized, I see. Yes, it finally happened. Now I can be greedy. Brian says, yo, remember me? I'd said I'd leak your info if you didn't read my comment. I remember that comment, but I don't really remember you, so welcome back. Turth says, please release the people you have abducted, praying emoji. I don't abduct people. Callie sent a super chat, $1.50, with a picture of a banana peel. Thank you, Callie. A banana peel. PE says, now that Dunn is receiving money, it is confirmed he's employed. Are you calling this a job? I mean, I don't think it is. Anonymous says, whoops, what did you say about doing a day stream every other day or on weekends? I'm gonna continue doing night streams only, but eventually I'll start doing day streams. Richard says, hey, you're out of the dark tonight, nice. Yes, I changed my lighting. Shisuri says, hey, my guy, continue like that, you are worth it. Thank you. Gavin says, everyone send money to Don, he needs it to pay for chemotherapy. I'm not interested in chemotherapy. Maybe in 60 years from now. Rajat says, do you play with XL? No. Too Far says, message redacted. That's fake. Callie says, why YouTube is gonna take more of your donations here than Cash App, sadly boo. I don't mind. It's so convenient now to donate. I don't mind the cut that they get. Harsh says, congrats on getting super chats. Thank you. Kalal says, you are a vampire. I'm sending your picture to the talent agency. Don't do that. Too Far says, will all those Big Macs, it's gonna be a lot less than 60 years. Yeah, that sounds like what you're saying could be true. Bozapi says, Don's body is made from 89% McDonald's. Yeah. Callie says, can we still Cash App? I mean, I would prefer if you didn't, because I like it how everyone can see your donation. I'm okay with YouTube taking the cut. Matt says, did you ever lose your underwear in gym class? No. Dan says, do you like black people? Yes, I'm not racist. Gabby says, hey, do you remember me? No. Poe says, did you have a Big Mac with extra cheese today? Yes. Diane says, thanks for remembering me. I mean, I vaguely remember you. Nature says, is my Coca-Cola as cold as yours? I mean, my Coca-Cola, it feels, is as cold as it can be, so mine's really cold. The Synth Wizard says, didn't donate $100 quadrillion. You didn't do that. 90 says, Pepsi is better than Coke. That's your opinion? Okay. Spinner says, Don, was it your make-a-wish to get monetized? Get well soon, fuck cancer. I don't have cancer. Bartle says, do you hold it open for the shower? What? The Mosquito says, where is fake Don? I don't know. I hope he comes up. Too Far says, that's $100 billion, Don. Oh, I read it 100 quadrillion instead of 100 billion. I see. Callie sent a super chat, $1 with an upside down face emoji. Okay, is that in response to like how I'm indifferent to YouTube taking the cut? Like, you're mad about that? Okay. Callie says, next stop, memberships. Yeah, in like 2 months from now, I'll do memberships. Down says, flour is far better than pen. It ain't even close. Okay. The Ass Clown says, did you get your car from a car dealership or private seller? Just wondering, it doesn't reveal anything personal. I'm not gonna say, but I'm not gonna say. Oz says, did you hear about my gay parrot? He likes cockatoo. Funny. Brian says, can you explain how you got monetized? I don't really understand how all that works. Why do you want me to? Just search it up on the internet. Callie says, no mad. Never get mad at you, boss. Congratulations, Don. Thank you. Also, I saw you in Kevin Yellow's live stream just a moment ago. Callie. Don Benitez says, I have been summoned. Hello, fake Don Benitez. Heather says, is Waffle House open on Christmas? I don't know. Too Far says, I get mad at you, boss. Feel free to get mad. I think it makes things interesting. Jacqueline says, hi Don, hi chat, wave emoji. I just made a pizza. Nice. Lexi says, did you watch Daz Games? No, but thank you for reminding me. Callie says, haha, oh yeah, Kevin and Moon are my cup of tea too. You like those live streamers? Okay. PE says, brain rot before the brain stimulation. What? Brian says, because I want you to explain it, man shit, as far as I go on the internet. What? Anthony says, what, you like me? What are you saying? Pink versus gay. I'm not gay. Denny says, why didn't you read my post? There's too many messages to read. Stomp super chatted $5. Stomp says, finally, congrats. Clap emoji. Father Don praying emoji. Thank you, Stomp, for your generous donation. Zach says, I see you every night recently and never have you read my comment. There's just too many messages to read. Thought says, anonymous. Salute emoji. Okay. PE says, are you able to smell pheromones? I mean, I've never consciously noticed pheromones. Poe says, when is there at your place to pick them out and bring the stuff back? What are you talking about? Don Benitez says, we all become children of Don. We can call him the Don Father, and then we can drink Kool-Aid. This is not a cult. Zhao says, what is pheromones? I think it's like a natural smell humans emit, from what I heard. Stomp says, can you mod Femboy next time he comes in here, please? Father Don, praying emoji. I don't want to mod anyone else. I'm done modding people. But I will say, I do feel extremely bad because you tried to make a mod many times, but I'm just finished with modding people. I'm sorry. The Synth Wizard says, I know you're deliberately ignoring some of my messages, but I can't prove it. Angry cussing emoji. That's not true. Kelt says, are the mods deleting any chats? No. Spinner says, why have you lied in your channel description? I lied? I don't think I did. Too Far says, mods are a dying species in this ecosystem. That's true. MK says, can you read my comment, then say, what? Then look at the camera and say, of course your dad loves you? I'm not gonna do that, sorry. Cat says, we must rebuild. I'm gonna make that impossible. Iron Knight says, do you know the Muffin Man? No. Brian says, sorry, I didn't really type that out well. What I meant was YouTube is the only part of the internet I get on besides the dark web. So that's why I asked you if you can explain monetization. Very funny. I'm sure you can search it up yourself just fine. Stop being silly. Tony says, hi Don, how you doing? Wave emoji. Hello Tony, I'm doing good, thank you. Callie says, how many mods do you have? I think I have 30. Thought says, finally changed your shirt. This is the first time I've worn a green shirt on live stream. Either says, are you going to accept digital ID? I mean, it's inevitable, right? So, yes. Thought says NPC. Okay. Nick says, are any other people in your family serial killers? Nobody in my family is a serial killer, including myself. Kelt says, it's either this live or watching raccoons sleep. You watch raccoons sleep sometimes? Cool. Bitter says, Hi Don, do you have compassion for people? Yes. Kurt says, Don, remember me? You introduced me to Ben? I don't remember. Poe says, when I'm inside, I just go in and out of my room to see what I'm wearing. I don't get it. Tony says, how would you deal with constant pain and decreasing mobility? I mean, I don't. I'd probably spend way more time on devices than I usually do, which is kind of a dark thing, but that may be the dark horse that would happen for me. Medicinal says, what your advice on how to hustle with $10 into $100 into $1,000? Dropship. Just kidding. I'm not. I don't have advice. Mantis says, Earth is flat. What's up, bro? How you doing? I'm doing good, thank you. Don Benitez says, do you know the Muffin Man? I don't. Donnie Fan says, hey Don, I'm you 67 seconds in the future. Don't pee yourself. I'm not gonna do that. Nick says, where is your inflatable girlfriend at the moment? I don't have one of those masturbatory things. PE says, the earth is your mom shaped. Funny. Wade says, Don, I missed your last 2 streams. Sorry, bro. Don't be sorry. You should be happy that you're doing more interesting things than watching this. Brian says, laughing my ass off. You got me, but don't come at like me that again. I'll leak your info. Please don't leak my info. JK says, do you know what tuberculosis is? An old disease. Arthur Morgan got it. Thought says, might change my name to Femboy, so my comment gets read every time. That wouldn't work, but that's funny. Too Far says, he's a Cancer. What? Ranchez says, rest in peace, Arthur, Lenny, Sean, and everyone else. Yes, rest in peace, those fictional characters. Callie says, Don might fire us all soon. I'm gonna fire you a month from when your mod got paid for. Lost in a Room says, have you ever been to Sinaloa? No. Health says, would you ever be a part of a throuple? No. Ether says, how much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? Thanks for the obligatory woodchuck comment on my live stream. I need that every live stream. Jordan says, I'm back. Do you remember me, Don? No, sorry. Lost in a Room says, are you just e-begging? Like DSP Gaming? I don't think so. Maybe to a little degree, but not really. Ren says, have you kissed a family member on the lips? No, that's never been a thing in my family. Robert says, the other Don, did you get your toilet paper yet? My household is fine on toilet paper. Sergio says, could you read my comment, then look at the camera and acknowledge me? There you go, Sergio. Too Far says, e-beggars can't be e-choosers. E-beggars can't be e-choosers. Okay. Just Cole says, who are you? What do you do? My name is Don, and I live stream myself reading chat messages. Purple says, it come out. What? Bueno says, you finally have lights on? Surprised. Yeah, it's been a while since I've had lights on. Brian says, I won't leak it, just don't come at me with disrespect. I really only get on YouTube and the dark web. I mean, I may disrespect you, no promises. Kat says, good night, Don. Good night, chat. Except the 2 fake Dons, that's weird. Good night, Kat. Tony says, what do you think of Kurt Cobain's suicide? I mean, from what I heard, it was actually a suicide. Rest in peace. Gumpin says, yeah, he's one of my friends. Brian's here, so treat him with some respect. I mean, I try to treat everyone with respect, but maybe there will come a time where I treat you with disrespect. Thought says, you ever stepped in shit and then forgot to take your shoes off in the house? Yes. Netball says, hi, what's 6 times 7? 42. Joe Black says, I disrespect myself. You shouldn't do that. Highest says, it's better when you have a serious android look on your face. You don't want me to smile? Okay. That guy says, Don, is spanking an appropriate method of discipline for a child? I mean, I don't think so, but my mind could change. Gumpin says, Brian, go ahead and leak everything. Drop it on the Kiwi Farms. Kiwi Farms, that forum where there's lots of lol cows. Don't do that, please. Ecstasy says, have you ever ran a red light? No. Not Yeezy says, Don, your head looks less round today. Maybe it's the lighting. Poster says, I'm at work right now. Let's see what you got to say. Let's see. Kevin Dunn says, 2 dudes sitting in a hot tub 10 feet apart because they're not gay. I remember that vine. Thought says, you ever get ripped off on the dark web so bad that you got depressed? No, I haven't been on the dark web. Tony says, do you like Italian food? If so, what kinds? I'm not too familiar with Italian food. Pina says, Don, whatever you do, don't turn left. The king in yellow is coming. What? Callie says, any new movies you watched? The last movie I saw was Eyes Wide Shut. I have been watching The Walking Dead. Don Benitez, #1 hater, says, stop ignoring Don, you will get touched in your sleep. I don't think I will. Crazy says, have you ever been arrested? No comment. Rajit says, will you eat some oatmeal raisins next morning, Don? No. Derek says, whoa, Eyes Wide Shut is deep. That's deep? Okay. Daniel says, hear me out, Clash Royale Queen. I mean, I don't think that's a controversial opinion. Miss says, what is the most attractive accent? I don't know, French. Nita says, what's your favorite character on The Walking Dead? Daryl. That guy says, Don, do you truly believe everyone is equal? Yes, I like to think that way. Bree says, have you ever had a dingleberry? What? Toxic says, the spammer's back. Anyone miss me? Oh yeah, I do remember when you were spamming the chat back in the day. Tony says, Jesus paid it all to him I owe. Thank you, but I don't believe. That guy says, it feels good to think that way, but I believe it is only a hopeful thought. Well, I'm gonna continue being an idealist. Strawberry Edit says, yo. Hello, Strawberry. Mad says, ever eat a whole can of baked beans and shit half an hour later? Maybe, but I can't remember that. Too Far says, if everyone was equal, you'd be watching our live streams. That's a good, I see what you're saying. That's a good point. Brian says, yo, I'll leak the info if someone sends me $200. I mean, I'm not gonna give you money. Don Benitez says, live from my bathroom. This isn't my bathroom. Samir says, do you eat bats? No. Emperor says, how many donuts can you stack on it? No comment. Mid says, where are you from? The United States of America. Down with the System says, Donnie, please. Please what? Brian says, not you, the viewers. I can see your net worth, laughing my ass off. Oh. Well, I hope no one pays you. Falcon says, are you walking? I look like walking? Okay. Too Far says, were you affected by the government shutdown? Not really. Bill says, can you say go Kansas Jayhawks? I'm just Bill from Kansas saying hello to you. Okay, your comment feels a little ominous, but okay. Chris says, hi Don, sending you positive vibes tonight. Have a great weekend. From Toronto, Canada. Thank you, Chris. Rick says, Luigi, how did you get out? Luigi Mangione. You're saying I look like him? Okay. Too Far says, Takis or hot Cheetos? Hot Cheetos. Casey says, sup Don, it's me, can you guess? I don't know what you mean by guess, but I vaguely remember you if that's what you're asking. That guy says, Don, how much money to play chess on stream? I mean, I really don't want to do that. You would have to give me $1,000. Like, it's a bad deal, don't do it. I'm making it high because I don't want to do it. Callie says, do you remember me? You're being funny. Of course. That guy says, come on. I don't want to play chess. Too Far says, how much money to solve a crossword puzzle live? Again, $1,000. I don't want to do that. Brian says, yo, I'll leak Don's info. I don't care. I mean, I care a little bit, but nobody should pay you. Kid says, bro, we got the same forehead. I'm dead ass. Oh, that's cool. I Hot says, furries or dragon puppeteers. I mean, I don't know what a dragon puppeteer is, but that sounds less weird than a furry, so. Debug says, somebody make Don suffer and send you $1,000. I mean, the suffering would be canceled out by the $1,000, so it wouldn't be suffering anymore. Thought says, do you brush your teeth with butter? No, I just drink a lot of Coke and eat McDonald's, so they're just permanently yellow. Casey says, do you know someone who is autistic? No. Colin says, the lighting is different. Are you under duress? I'm just fine. Poster says, 2 girls, 1 cup. I never plan on watching that. I heard it was a gross film. Ace says, cleaning teeth with Coke is meta, bro. Yeah, it's the Asmongold method. Tori says, is your name Jesse? No. The Ass Clown says, I drink a lot of soda also. Okay. Miss Savage says, I can actually pay you $10,000 or more. Well, I would like that, but that sounds like a bad idea for you, so you shouldn't do that. Too Far says, I eat a lot of vegetables and drinking sparkling water, and teeth are still yellow. Huh, that's strange. Joseph says, next time we see Don, he's gonna be kitted out with piercings and tattoos. Not my style. Callie sent a super sticker, $2. Thank you. The super sticker is an eyeball with text accompanying it saying sneak peek. Cool. Thank you, Callie. Spom says, I won't tell if you don't tell. What? Too Far says, if they pay you $10,000, you gotta sell 10 crossword puzzles. If they request that, sure. That guy says, okay, now you have to play 1/500th of a game of chess. No, I'll only play 1 whole game of chess, no fractions. Jay says, you look in pain. I'm not in pain. Mad says, do you wake up in the morning and laugh at all the funny shit people ask you on your stream? Sometimes. Robert says, Don, my ass is still hurting from last night. Thanks, man. You got the wrong person. Too Far says, at Tony Life is the only thing that happens to everyone. What? Spinner says, you should do this in public with text-to-speech. Maybe one day, but probably not. Sarah says, what kind of music and artists do you listen to? Nirvana. Alistair says, what is your favorite kind of music? As I said. Ebass says, definitely text-to-speech. Not in the foreseeable future, that's not happening. Boy says, the way I do anything you say without question. What? Callie says, chat's rolling. Are you saying it's going by fast? Okay. Hunter says, you look like a Disney teenage vampire. That's That's worse than being called Edward Cullen. Kid says, I don't know if bro is off the zoinkies or if bro is truly just having glazed eyes from the chat. I think it's just from staring at a screen too much. Kevin says, thoughts on Charlie Kirk. I don't like that he was murdered. Hey, it's Ava says, hey, I can't be here for long, but I missed the last live tonight. Okay. Hi. Chippy says, bro, I love your vibe. Do you remember me? Sorry, I don't. Borders says, yo, I called 911. I hope everything's fine. Anil says, hi. Hello, Anil. Poster says, have you ever hit a doobie? No comment. Don Benitez says, you know what I love about high school girls? I get older, but they stay the same age. Isn't that a quote McConaughey said in a movie? Ten Rag says, shirt brand. What is this polo shirt brand? I don't remember, but I got it from JCPenney. Ebass says, dazed and confused. That's the movie? Okay. The Ass Clown says, I just farted all loud and it stinks. Gross. Sorry to... Gross. Gabriel says, favorite Nirvana song? On a Plane. Brian says, alright, Don, you got me tonight. I won't leak your info. Cool. Ten Rag says, do you work in finance? Not gonna say. Too Far says, gross. Sorry to gross. Yeah, I did say that. Hottie says, can you try speaking in a Liverpool accent? I don't do accents. May says, why are your eyes so black? I don't know, I guess genetics. Too Far says, who to make a pool out of livers? Liverpool? Pool out of livers? Funny. Ten Rag says, investment banker? Maybe. Hawstream says, hi. Hello, Hawstream. Joseph says, is it Don or Ben or Don Ben? Don. Jay says, depressed. Sorry. Ebass says, kind liked when it was a slowed down chat. There's pros and cons to a slow chat. Don Benitez says, ha 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 ha. Okay. Red says, are you gay yet? Not yet. Ten Rag says, I'm in finance and I know another when I see one. Maybe. Rad says, did you ever get your Cash App fixed? No, but I have super chats now. Casey says, Don, are you an introvert? Yes. L says, why are your eyes black? Genetics. I mean, they're dark brown, but I guess they can look black sometimes. Jason says, did you mean to create a new strange form of ASMR? No, that was never in my intention. I don't like ASMR. Hawstream says hello. Hello, Hawstream. Callie says, you're so unique. Thank you. Ebass says, black eyes are the sign he is a vampire. Okay. Too Far says, why did you start last night's stream so late? it involved technical problems, computer problems. Sneaky says, "Are you just dead inside?" No. Brian says, "But I will say I'm a fan of your vehicle, Don." Thank you. Robert says, "Ever get caught beating off?" No. Too Far says, "I can be your IT guy." I already fixed it, but thank you. Ali says, "Don, you got a top tier battery pod?" I have a top tier battery pod? You're saying I'm a robot? I'm not a robot. LT says, whenever you yawn, there's a slight chance of a ghost dipping its balls in your mouth. Stay safe. Thumbs up emoji. I don't believe in ghosts, so that's not real. Robert says, "I know what you did last summer, Don." I don't mind. Kai says, "You look like that one guy on TikTok that wears a maid dress." Okay, but I will never do that. That's not my style at all. Number One Pigeon says, "How many days since you changed that polo shirt?" Changed it? I mean, the last time I washed it was like 2 days ago. Too Far says, "I want AI to take as many jobs as possible, make people learn something new." I mean, AI taking jobs, that's inevitable, right? The Next Gen Boy says, "How much do I gotta pay for you to put on a maid dress?" $50 million. Mickey says, this guy looks AI. Okay. Callie says, "Will you be on tomorrow?" Yes. Cat in a Box says, "Hi, remember me? I'm the guy with the virtual reality channel." No, I don't, sorry. DB says, 50 million is crazy. I don't like, that just seems degrading, putting on that outfit when I don't want to. Red Boy says, "Will you ever be doing other type of content gaming?" Maybe in the future, but for the months to come, just this. Don Benitez says, "I must go, brother. I have some yanking to attend, and sadly, it is quite urgent." Okay, see you later then. Callie says, "Should do an Amazon wish list for your fans." I don't know. I would prefer to keep things simple and just have it, where there's only one way to support. I like keeping things simple. 80 says, "Are you that guy that was epic blessed? That prankster, kind of Mr. Beast-like dude, YouTuber? Did I have a run-in with him?" No. Too Far says, "That scroll wheel sounds like you got a gaming mouse." I do. I have this Razer gaming mouse, wireless. Michael says, "'Cause you're a simpleton." What? Jay says, "Are you happy?" Yes. Madarush says, "If you and another guy were left in the world, would you turn?" I don't think so, but maybe. Ebass says, "Lol, at some point, he will finally read Sarah's comment." I'll look for it right now. Sarah says, you look like Ed Westwick. I don't know who that is. Not Easy says, yo, Don, is Don your real name? Yes. Brian says, anytime, dude, keep up your good work. If I were you, start using a VPN, man. Maybe I do. Joseph says, it takes a few whats and okays before you get a message across. Yeah, sometimes it takes that. Spinner says, 3 minutes on the clock, 1 second in increment. What? Hottie says, explain E equals MC squared. I forgot what that was. It's something with physics by Albert Einstein. I forget though. JK says, is a hot dog a sandwich? No. Colin says, will you be mixing business with pleasure? Business with pleasure? I don't know what you mean. Ethan says, remember me? Yes. Too Far says, it's the energy contained in anything with mass m. Okay. Okay. I think I get it. Miyuki says, you kind of look zesty. I look zesty? Okay. Rain says, WTF, Ethan, go to sleep. You look 12. You want Ethan to go to sleep? Okay. Navid says, why Republicans are more gay statistically? Is that a real statistic? I wouldn't think that. If that's true, then that's not what you would expect. Too Far says, have you ever read Ayn Rand? No, but I vaguely know about her views. Well, I forget them actually. Ricky Cornflake says, goat. Hello, Ricky. Callie says, do you wear pajamas? No. Haya says, do you read books? Not anymore, unfortunately. Brian says, laughing my ass off? Nah, man. You don't, at least not a good one? I gotta get a better VPN. Okay. Willie says, bet you can't spell run? I'm not gonna do that. Yi says, are you mad at me? No. Renita says, hola, awesome Don, do you remember me? I don't, sorry. Will says, okay. Okay. Remember says, I sleep in the clothes I wear during the day. That sounds unhygienic, but I get it. Ricky Cornflakes super chatted $5. I can give you money. Now please look at the camera and snap your fingers and say no worries, babe. I'm not gonna do that, I'm sorry. Thank you for the super chat though. I don't want to be this like puppet that people can control with super chats, you know? Ricky Cornflake says, Augie, no. Sorry, maybe you should have like proposed that before super chatting. But thank you though. The Next Gen Boy says, damn bro, paid $5 and can't even do that. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's kind of messed up of me in a way, but Netball says, do you play Roblox? If you do, what's your user? I don't play Roblox. Ebass says, honestly fair, there is a simplicity to the randomness of reading any chats thrown your way. Yeah. Game over, Jesse says, are you Spider-Man? No. Poster says, what y'all expect? He is an introvert, fellas. You think that should be expected, me not doing that request because I'm an introvert? Okay. Benjamin says, are you high? No. The Ass Clown says, Don, you should do it. $5 is $5. It makes you fun and spontaneous. I mean, isn't your wacky chats that I read already, like, fun enough? Too Far says, I like that you won't obey just for money. It shows your character. Yeah. Femboy says, do you like fried bologna sandwiches? No. Casey says, Don, I said I got to go, so peace. Bye, Casey. Jewel says, Don, why are you so handsome? If that's true, genetics. Candy says, you did think about doing it. I thought about doing Ricky's request. Yeah, I did, obviously. I mean, he gave me $5, so of course I would contemplate it. Official says, can boats get flat tires while flying? I don't think boats ever get flat tires. Robert says, coffee makes me shit in you. I don't drink coffee at all. I don't know. Brian says, yeah, you do use Liquid Web. It's way better than whatever you're using because your location isn't even pinging different places on my end of the computer. I should get a better VPN. Okay. Joseph super chatted $2 New Zealand dollars. Joseph says, maybe you should do Ricky's request or else. What are you gonna do? Drive to me and kill me? Don't do that, please. Ricky Cornflakes super chatted $5. Wow. See, that's... I love you, Augie, aka Don the Lion. The Lion. So stoic and badass. You respect that I didn't follow your request? I'm a lion for not following your request. The lion does not follow super chat requests. Okay. Thank you for your second super chat. Callie super chatted $1.50 hot dog picture. Thank you, Callie. Joseph super chatted $2 New Zealand dollars. Joseph says, find out, handsome boy. Thank you for the super chat, but again, please don't hunt me down or kill me or swap me. Netball says, what do you do other than YouTube? I keep that private. Pauline says, single woman's in chat. Dawn once saved me and my cat from a fire. That's not true, but I appreciate that you're trying to give me a good look. Wade says, congratulations on getting monetized on. The world needs more good people like you. I mean, I don't know if I'm a good person, but anyway, thank you. Thomas says, I accidentally burnt my toe on the stove. It's on the stove. It's currently healing right now. Send prayers. I don't pray, but I hope you get better. Callie super chatted $1. Happy face emoji. Thank you, Callie, for your super chat. Fat Rick says the stove. Yeah, I did mispronounce stove earlier. Biazzo says, my cat did a backflip yesterday. Is that possible? If so, that's cool. Ricky says, you rich, Donnie? I am. Nutty says, does Superman come to you for hero advice? No. Kurt says, eyes so gone yellow like my liver failing. Your eyes are yellow? Sorry, perhaps you should go to a doctor. Joseph super chatted 5 New Zealand dollars. Thank you, Joseph. Joseph says, you already know where I live now. It's only fair I know where you do, Don. I know you live in New Zealand, so you want to know where I live? I live in the United States of America. I know your country, you know my country now. I super chatted $2. Thank you, I. I says, why you so chill with it? It's just my personality. I'm not forcing myself to be this way. Kurt says, they are Joko sapiens. Is that the word Homo sapien mixed with Joker? Okay. Matt says, hey Don, wave emoji. Hello, Matt. Packin says, why are you grimacing your face when reading? I don't know. Is that a bad habit I have? I haven't noticed it. Justin says, your eyes too far apart. I don't mind. Renita says, my fish just drowned in water while flying. That sounds completely fake. Hottie says 10,000 INR is the highest option here. Should I do that? Oh, for Super Chat? I mean, I would like it, but is it a wise decision? I don't know. Haya says, why? Crying emoji. Why don't you read a book? I'm just too brain rotted. I enjoy the internet too much. Fratrick says, I don't respect anything about this except for the hustle. I think it should be the opposite. Like, Poster says, crazy that Trump gave Clinton sloppy top. I heard about that. Projecto says, hey, I'm illegal. I suggest you respond at time and John stop. What? Callie says, Don hustles. Okay. Haya says, why don't you read a book? I don't have the attention span. Pauline says, I can tell by your head shape that you are most likely highly intelligent. You know, by my head shape? What is that called? Physiognomy? You think that someone's head tells about their character? Okay. Matt says, bro, you seem like a really cool guy. Thank you. Debug says, would you stand up and do a spin for $500? No, I don't want to be treated like a dog. Bayer says, hello, sir, are you homosexual? No. Too Far says, would you watch a visual book? Like a long-ass movie that's just an audiobook, but with everything depicted visually? I don't know if that's as cool as it sounds. That sounds like it might be actually lame. Probably not. Ricky Cornflake says, you are not a dog. You're a prince. Thank you. Official says, did you know that what? Too Far says lame. What you described sounds like a gimmick, like dumb thing, but maybe I could be wrong and it's awesome. Brian says, so is your name from that Tex-Mex restaurant? Maybe. Pauline says, AI will never replace Don answering questions. It might. Actually, it might. Callie says, what is your favorite food besides Big Macs? Eggs over easy. Turth says, your red jacket looks fine. Red jacket? I don't have a red jacket. Grasshopper says, I like tacos. Okay. Maria says, hello from England. Hello, Maria. Willie says, Don GPT. Chat GPT. Don GPT. Okay. Joseph says, do you like duck eggs? I haven't tried them. Matt says, ever think of doing a podcast in the future? I mean, no, I only care about this currently, this stream of me reading messages. Ebass says he exaggerated his mouth movement with the word egg. I did? Okay. Brian says, laughing my ass off, maybe this guy, if you ever had it, it's good, I'm sure. The restaurant that shares the same name with me, you think it's good? You're guessing? Okay. S. Antonio says, are you like the male version of Bobby Althoff? I mean, I haven't watched too much of her, but I heard she was kind of a quirky person, so maybe we're similar. I don't know. Debug says Cordy. Cordy? Did I say Cordy instead of quirky? Melissa says eggs over easy. That's right. Matthias says, have you ever heard of the city of New Orleans? Of course, that's on my bucket list to travel to. Mac Daddy says, are you premature, Unc? In what? Ricky Cornflake says, I'ma get you on Joe Rogan. Y'all can talk about misogyny and guns. I wouldn't go on. I'm not interested. Sarah says, can you tell us a joke? Sorry, that's your guys' job. Debug says, no, I was just saying the first 6 letters of the keyboard alphabet. I get it. I'll do that too. Cordy. Civi says, have you heard of the piano in Philippines lasting forever? I don't know what you're talking about. Joseph super chatted $2 New Zealand dollars. Joseph says, when I visit, eggs is the safe word, okay? I don't want to have sexual intercourse with you. Sorry. Thank you again for your super chat. Aces says, church, I'm a need suit. What? Court says, WTF is Project 2050. I haven't heard of it. I have heard of 2030 though. Renita says, I'ma go to sleep goodnight by heart emoji, moon emoji. Good night, Renita. Willie says, if, when, where, and how. What? Thought says, would you be mad if you were Chinese and your name was Shit-oo? No. Brian says, I know it's good. I've been, and I'm sure you have too. It's in the same state as you. Okay. Packin says, do you watch Stranger Things? I have watched season 1 and 2. Monomic says, should Derek Chauvin become the next president of US of A? Well, I heard he did a terrible crime, so considering that, no. Big Red says, kinda read like a robot. Yeah, I kinda read like a robot, yeah. Too Far says, Packin. I think it's pronounced Rasul. Sorry. Johnny says, what's the best movie you've ever seen? Eyes Wide Shut. Willie says, Kanye for president. That sounds like it would be entertaining, but he's not getting my vote. Matt says, I'm kind of broke. Can you spread some cheese on this cracker? Let me know. No. Rad says, say it with me, Don. Long live the patriarchy. I did not say it with you. I was just reading your message. I condemn your message. Thought says, you ever sagged your pants to try and be cool, but you had skid marks and you never knew? I've never sagged my pants. Come Hands says bye, waving emoji. Bye, hands. Kurt says, I want to be baptized. Okay. Christopher says, what up from Alabama? Hello, Christopher. Team says, are you okay? Bro, you seem sad. I'm just fine, thank you. Official says, have you watched the new The Long Walk movie? Maybe. It doesn't sound familiar. S says, oh, I see. You just read comments. That's true. Willie says, Hands, your name is diabolical. Yeah, Hands' full name is Come Hands. That's his name in the chat. It is diabolical. Too Far says, yeah, I can do that, Kurt. I got officiated as a baptizing priest. You're gonna baptize Kurt in the chat? Okay. Ballastior says, holy Jesus, look at this guy. Reading my comments again. I do this every day. 9F says, diabolical is such a lame word. Really? I thought the opposite. EJ says, moose knuckle or camel toe? No comment. Mac says, are you Dominican and Japanese? No. Pink Fur says, do you have friends? I do. Caitlin says, this seems like such an easy way to get a lot of interactions. Interactions like YouTube views and stuff? Okay. Too Far says, my goal is to be a serial influencer. Not a serial killer, but a serial influencer? Okay. Callie says, cold or hot? Cold. Debug says, how much money to take a DNA test live on stream? What does a DNA test look like? Like, I don't know what that is, so I can't say. Timothy says, do you have a job? I keep that private. Ballastier says, no, not every day. Only your fan is on every day? Okay. Too Far says, you gotta spit in a cup with all of us watching? That's not too bad. Do I have to stick out my tongue and like put like a thing on my tongue? If that's the case, I don't want to do that. But if it's just spitting in a cup, that sounds easy. Kurt says, did you get hired because you good at eating ice cream? What? Stomp says, DNA test is not instant. It would take weeks to get the results. Huh, okay. Thought says, you ever wiped your ass and somehow toilet paper was hanging from your back and you never knew? No. Joseph super chatted 5 New Zealand dollars. Thank you, Joseph. Joseph says, one time I, in primary school, tried to slip a quiet one at the back of the class, and the 2 girls in front of me turned around. Okay, I'm done. You passed gas, you were trying to do it secretly, and then 2 girls noticed? Or what do you mean? Tried to slip a quiet one? I think you mean pass gas. Okay. Thank you again for your donation. Andrew says, bacon and eggs or fruit and toast? Bacon and eggs. 9 says, is okay your favorite word? When I stream, yes. Team says, I liked and subbed, bro. I love all of your streams. Thank you. Sarah says, I'm gonna go. Bye, Don. Bye, Sarah. Jake says, would you rather do heroin or meth? No comment. Ballastier says, how many New Zealand dollars to the peso? I don't know. Crazy Star says hi. Hello, Crazy Star. Shrouded says, would you wrestle a 500-pound bear to save your girlfriend's life? Maybe. I think definitely for my wife, yeah. Unsalted Banana super chats 8 Australian dollars. Thank you, Unsalted Banana. Unsalted Banana says, the New Zealand guy probably does things to sheep. You're accusing him of bestiality. I highly doubt you have any evidence for that. I think you're just making an unfounded claim, but thank you for your super chat. I appreciate it. I thought New Zealanders and Australians were like a team. Is there a rivalry? Jay-Z says, hey Don, it's me again. Hi. Hello, Jay-Z. Mantis says, Fritos are trash to your chips. They are? I like them. Turth says, would you eat a blanket for online blessings? No. Jay-Z says, hey, I'm from New Zealand. You are? I mean, the comment that I just read, the super chat that I just got, relates to New Zealand in a bad way, so I don't know if you should be excited. Letty says, God himself couldn't pull me out of this man. Okay. Remember says, this is amazing with the super chats. I need to start a channel. You wanna be greedy like me? Okay, I mean, I'd be excited to see it, how it looks like. Too Far says, IHOP or Denny's? IHOP. Progetto says, what do I do to people who came from? What? Cohen says, go to bed. It is 12 a.m. Not yet. Ballastior says, Unsalted and I are going to dress up like sheep. You want to, sorry to be vulgar, but you want to be penetrated by people who are into bestiality? That sounds really gross. I condemn bestiality, by the way. Rad says no means yes, yes means anal. No. Derek says, why would he support that? No, I said condemn, not condone. Gabriel says, dear Mr. I'm too good to write my fans. What? Too Far says, you need to add that condemnation to your bio. That would be funny, but I'm not going to do that. Quinn says, it would be so wonderful to hear you laugh loudly. You're gonna have to wait. Derek says, will you be on the radio in the future? No, why the radio? I have YouTube. Gaming says, the government is trying to ban weed gummies, and I'll be going back to night terrors since I can't smoke. Sorry to hear that. I hope you get over that. Stomp super chatted 10 American dollars. Thank you, Stomp. Stomp says, just a suggestion, but when someone super chats, you start by immediately thanking them. For example, thank you, Stomp, for the thank you name for the amount super chat, then read the message. Someone, you start by immediately thanking them. If I should thank the person for the super chat before reading the message, I think I will do that. Thank you again, Stomp, for your generous 10 American dollar donation. Too Far says he's giving you a rubric. Yeah. Willie says they want you to know you look like Christopher Walken so bad. I already know. I get told that through chat 500 times per stream. Remember says, I used to get $10 hourly. That was your wage back in the day? Okay. Jay-Z says, Don, what happened to your Cash App? I don't care about it. I have super chats now. Official Sussy says, would you rather 10 donuts or 25 Timbits? I don't know what a Timbit is. I mean, I guess donuts because I don't know what that is, but I feel like you're gonna make a fool out of me because Timbits are valuable for some reason. Caleb says, can you do a backflip though? No. Unsalted Banana says, are you still giving mod when people donate? That's over. Spence says, we will make sure that you become famous. Okay. Jay-Z says, at Caitlin, nah, for real. You're agreeing with someone named Caitlin in the chat on something? Okay. Too Far says, that's a good question, Marlboro. I'll look for Marlboro's question. Marlboro says, credit score. What's my credit score? I'm not gonna say. Be Unique says, what are your plans for Thanksgiving? To see family. The Z-Rack says, do you read books? No. Sketchy says, hey Don, do you play the guitar? Also, in my opinion, you look like Johnny Cash. I don't play the guitar, and yeah, I guess I look a little like Johnny Cash, maybe the hair. Remember says, I have no credit cards. You don't have any credit cards? Okay. Ballastier says, Eric sounds uppity. Are you saying he sounds controlling because of the super chat he sent? I mean, what he said is a good idea, so I don't mind his uppityness if that's the case. Prophet says, you know rapper Token? No. Unapologetic apologist says, he looks to be about 5'3". I'm taller than that. Stomp says, Stomp super chatted $5. Thank you, Stomp. Stomp says, laughing my ass off, sorry that came out wrong. I was trying to suggest it might go smoother if you do it that way. It's obviously up to you. I'm gonna read your previous super chat to see what you're talking about. Thank you, name for the amount dollar super chat, then read the message. I think I'm following what you're saying. Again, thank you for your super chat. Silo says, Don Benitez, ask anybody in chat if they want to play some Roblox with me. There's a dude named Silo who wants to play Roblox with someone. Does anyone want to play with them? Jay-Z says, Silo, I'll play Roblox with you. Looks like you have someone. Lady A says, have you smiled today? Yes. Callie says, sorry, I don't game. You don't play Roblox, let alone game? Okay. L. Bizzle says, this guy is sad and miserable. No, I'm not. Spinner says, are you capable of turbulence? I don't know what you mean. Too Far says, you almost didn't thank him first. I'm glad you stick to the rubric. That's true. I'm surprised you're noticing these small details. Unapologetic says, he doesn't seem that sad, maybe a little. I agree. Marlboro says, are you ignoring me because I asked about the credit score? No. Evil Wolf says, remember, not everyone will be happy for your success, brother. I know that. People get jealous. Or maybe there's like a real reason that they're mad at me. I'm open to being criticized. 9F says, are you mechanically inclined? Are you accusing me of being a clanker? I'm not a clanker. Or are you accusing me of robotophilia, if that's what it's called? I'm not sexually attracted to robots. Ballastier says, Eric's got the dough to teach us all, stay tuned. Stomp has money. He has super chatted a lot, so yeah. Dandy says, how often do you do this? Every day? Every day. Jamie says, robots are hot though, not gonna lie. I mean, in a decade from now, I guess they will be technically, I guess, like sexually attractive, because I know they're gonna be making sex robots in the future, so I guess you're kind of right. But I hope I don't ever fall for that. Willie says, turbulence is when your balls slap your legs. Okay. Apologist says, would you renounce your strict and very devout Islamic faith for $1 million? I mean, I'm not even Islamic to begin with. If I was, though, that sounds messed up to leave your religion for money. Too Far says, there's a lot of self-driving cars in my city. I like driving recklessly near them and seeing what they do. I like to think I'm training their AI. I think you're joking, but if you're not, that's kind of cool. And also not cool. You shouldn't do that. EJ says, all we can see are the super chat comments. You should be able to see non-super chat comments. Thrift says, I want you bad, Don Benitez. Well, I don't want you. Dandy says, how do you think AI will be in the future? I mean, I think it'll infect every sphere of our lives, but it's inevitable, so it is what it is. Callie super chatted $2 American with a GIF of a big dude, big cartoon character saying cool. Cool. Thank you for your $2 super chat, Callie. Apologist says, does being a deeply closeted Muslim man affect your bias towards the gays? I'm not Muslim. Pant says, Timbits are Canadian small bread balls that are usually chocolate or flavored. Interesting. John says, Jesus Christ died for your sins. Thank you, but I don't believe that. Too Far says, it's kind of like how everyone has a phone/laptop now. That's a massive change within the last 20 years. Yeah, I think technology is accelerating. Like, things are changing fast. Silo says, sometimes I sit on my butt too, and then it hurts. Why are you still here, Silo? I thought you'd be playing Roblox with Jay-Z by now. Emperor says, Don, you didn't address your bias towards the gays. Does this mean you dislike the gays? No. I'm pro LGBT. Apologist super chatted $20 American. You're funny, man. Have a tip. Thank you, Apologist. I really appreciate it. Thank you again. Jay-Z says, what's your user, Silo? Yeah, what is your user, Silo? Aren't you guys gonna play Roblox? Too Far says, you forgot to thank him first, WTF. Oh yeah, I forgot the rubric. Rick says, I don't get a read tonight. Oh well, there's your read. Caitlin says, obviously not pro-LGBT if you don't know the acronym. Did I say it incorrectly? Ray says, if I pay you $20, will you go in Five Guys and say I have more than that in my freezer? You want me to do like a prank thing in a Five Guys restaurant? I'll do it for $1,000. Dandy says, dang, you be making bank on live stream today? Compared to other live streams, yeah. Apologist says, that's way too much. I mean, it is. It's a bad deal, $1,000 for me doing that, but I just don't want to do it, so I'm making the price ridiculously high. Ballastior says, I am not touching myself while watching you today. but please arch your back and roar like a dragon for me? No. That guy says Shakespeare or Cervantes. I mean, I haven't read either of them that much. Not enough, but I think Don Quixote looks really interesting, so I guess Cervantes. Gauthan says, you look like a shaved Wolverine. You're awesome, man. Thank you. Too Far says, we are technically always touching ourselves. Yeah, I guess so, like in a way, like our skin, our organs, I guess so. Dottie says, hi everyone. Hello, Dottie. If you don't mind me asking, Dottie, who did you troll and what did you do? Because I remember you said you were trolling people. Can you elaborate? Collector Nick says, hi Don. Hello, Collector. Remember says, your viewers are hilarious with the improv comedy. They are. Spinner says, are you capable of swinging your little guy like that ceiling fan? My penis? No comment. Dottie says, I trolled this guy who looks like Harry Potter. I got banned. Who looks like Harry Potter? I mean, do you know the username? Stomp says, yes, the shaved Wolverine got me. I guess it's kind of accurate. Jay says, if you get a chance, would you eat uranium? No. Ray says, oh, Dottie, the guy that says he likes men. I don't think she identifies as a guy. Dandy says, bye, Don. Have a good rest of your day. Thank you, Dandy. Too Far says, whoa, Stomp was shadow promoted? Shadow promoted? Like, am I reading his comments more than others? I don't know. Joseph says, Joseph super chatted $2 New Zealand dollars. Thank you, Joseph. Joseph says, elaborate, Dottie. Yeah, I would like you to elaborate. I'm interested in, like, do you know the guy's name? Also, what did you do? Like, did you just call him names or? Dottie says, Mitchie Major is his name. That's the guy that you trolled. Okay. Thank you. Rick says, okay. Jamie says, are you Justin Trudeau's love child? Is he married to a Latin person? I don't know if he is. That guy says, Don, what is the source of homosexuality? No comment. Remember says, anybody who wants to laugh their ass off, go to the Holy Ghost prayer meeting and hear them speak in tongues. Okay. I mean, I won't be doing that. Gabriel says, Don is definitely a minor reservation dog. I don't know what that is. Dashi says, avoiding the cancellation laughing emoji. Yes. Ballastior says, I hid my homosexuality in the freezer. Nobody knows it's there. Interesting. Red Venom says, does information exist? Does information exist? Yes. Maybe it would be better if it didn't, though. Like, life would be better without it. Evil Wolf says, would you go bald for $2,000? Just asking. $2,000? That sounds like a nice amount. I would do that. Jamie says, being gay Is fine. Being a goof, not so much. Okay. Rick says, is YouTube deleting my joke 40 times? I think it is. I'm not seeing your messages. Too Far says, did you know that we only discovered that galaxies were a thing in the 1920s? Yeah, I've heard about that. And dinosaurs were only discovered in the 1800s. I've heard about that too. Apologist says, I feel the opposite. Being a goof is fine. Being gay, get the rocks. That's your viewpoint? Okay. T-Far says, you're so knowledgeable, Don. I am? Okay. Callie says, oh no, Dottie. I don't know why you're freaked out about Dottie. Dottie says, we getting married at the courthouse, then going to Chick-fil-A. That's not happening. Matt says, I find it very hard to believe that no one dug up a dinosaur until the 1800s. Okay. Fred says, are you allergic to sunlight? No, I like sunlight. Brian says, answer me. There you go. I just did. Thermal says, Arizona doesn't acknowledge daylight savings time. It doesn't? I didn't know that. Ashcat says, hey Don, you're so handsome, please never shave your eyebrows. I don't plan to. Dottie says, Callie, McDonald's prices went up too high. I think the prices are just fine. Spinner says, where were you on October 7th, Don? No comment. Femboy says, I don't understand homophobia. What adults do behind closed doors is nobody's business and doesn't hurt anybody. I see what you're saying. Caitlin says, it gets dark at like 3:30 here in Oregon. 3:30 p.m. it gets dark. Wow, that's early. Too Far says, my barbershop increased their haircut prices by $10. Sorry. Apologist says, whoa, get the rocks. You want to get the rocks for Femboy? I condemn your comment. Skull says, get a taper fade, bro. No. Bo says, it's sinful actions. Yeah, I guess in the context of the Bible, yeah, but I don't believe in the Bible. Ray says, do you think I'm beautiful, Don? Yes. M. Johnson says, sorry about your face. Don't be. I'm not mad about it. My genetics. Rick says, what did the saw say to the drill? Get out of the way or I'll cut your bit off. A bit, like the things drills. Okay, that's cute. Rule says, why don't you believe in the Bible? Why should I? I mean, I think it's a book with lots of wisdom, though. RH says, did you know if you Google what % of the Bible is historically accurate, that may change your mind, brother? I'm not interested in, like, evidence and, like, you know, doing, like, a court case to see if, like, the Bible is real. I don't think that's how it should be. But, thank you. Callie says, forget the haters, Dottie. Yeah, forget the haters, Dottie. Double says, you like Dubai chocolate, and I don't mean the candy. Are you asking if I am flown there and eat feces? I don't do that. GV says, we did a court case to prove evolution was real, though. Really? Is that real? That's interesting. Snower says, crazy how the people who wrote the Bible are so accurate. Maybe I should look into it more, but I don't think evidence or like information or details is going to change my mind. I think it has to be bigger. I think I need the Holy Spirit to like enter me. That'll change my mind. Joseph super chatted 5 New Zealand dollars. Thank you, Joseph. Joseph says, people are laughing over the fence. Maybe they're watching Dawn. There's people laughing in real life nearby, and you think they may be laughing at my stream? I doubt it. Like, the odds that strangers nearby you are watching my stream are very low, so I don't think so, but thank you for your super chat. Too Far says, I'm the Holy Spirit, Don. You need me to enter you? I guess I have to now. You're not the Holy Spirit. Russell says, you look like you're definitely a Slytherin. Like from Harry Potter. I look like I'm a part of that group. Okay. Ice Bear says, hey, it's Ice Bear from a while ago. I love your content, and I'ma shoot you a sub and a like. What can I do to sleep? I've been trying for hours. Take melatonin. If you can't sleep, go for a walk. Yeah. Femboy says, if only more Christians tried to be Christ-like instead of using religion as a vector for hate. Yeah, I guess I think I kind of agree. Yeah, be the change that you want to see in the world. Bella Stewart says, Jesus is not a king, he dead. Okay. Stomp says, evolution is a scientific theory that always is being studied and updated. It's not a religion where you have to accept things at faith value. That's true. Matthew says, I farted. Okay. K6 says, bro, why you bully me? You never read my comment. Sorry. Callie says, Dottie, yes we do. Too many weirdos trying to probe him, huh? Yeah, lots of people say sexual things about me. Bugman says, hold up, my house just exploded. Be right back. See you later. Russell says, read my comments and I cry every time. Sorry. Baby Luigi says, for God so loved the world that he gave his one and only son, Jesus, so whoever believes in him shall not perish, but shall have everlasting life. Thank you, but I don't believe. Giovanni says, we still going to the Bills on the 24th? We never had plans to do that. Eric says, waiting on another K6 comment. You're waiting for him to comment? Okay. Too Far says, baby Luigi, I hope you find something more interesting in life. I mean, the Bible is an interesting book. Like, I've enjoyed reading it. Colin says, has a loved one ever gotten you dino nuggets? a loved one, I mean, I have eaten chicken nuggets when I was young. I think they were dinosaur shaped. Dottie says, I need a 10-minute timeout. You can do it yourself. I'm not going to time you out myself. Quinn says, Dawn, what's your favorite Thanksgiving food? Pumpkin pie. Ballastior says, please ask Matthew how long ago. I mean, Matthew, Ballastior is curious about whatever you're talking about. Donovan Fox says, you're secretly a vampire? I'm not. Alonzo says, Brody got the baddies in the chat, laughing emoji. Maybe. Spencer says, would you listen to me, Shugga the band? I don't know what that is, so I guess no. Callie says, you're always on the naughty list, Dottie. Here comes Christmas. Dottie is on the naughty list? Okay. J. Paul says, you'd be great as a lost boy. From that movie from like the 80s? Okay. Nixie says, have you worn braces before? No. Everett says, Don, if you are interested in archaeology, look into how much of the Bible has been proven for archaeology. I don't care. What I care about is the Holy Spirit entering me, if the Holy Spirit is real. Ballastior says, thank you, Matthew. I could feel a disturbance in the force at the exact same time. Okay. Apologist super chatted 20 American dollars. Thank you, Apologist. Apologist says, jokes aside, I don't actually believe people should be killed for being gay. I am a Christian. I joke around too much, but I love all people. By the way, if you seek Jesus from a place of humility, you will receive the truth. I mean, about the gay thing, I kind of knew that you were just joking. I mean, yeah, about them dying, being killed. If you seek Jesus from a place of humility, you will receive the truth. I mean, I'll occasionally read the Bible because it's a very interesting book, so hopefully if Jesus is real, I hope he, speaks to me when I'm reading the Bible, when I do that occasionally. Thank you again for your super chat, Apologist. Apologist says that comment was more for others, not you regarding it was a joke. Oh, I already knew, but you're saying maybe others didn't? Okay. Superheat says, do you do gaming sometimes? Sometimes. Not that often anymore. Nixie says, what about the Quran? Do you read them? I haven't read it, but it's on my list. Lydia says, the Holy Spirit only enters you when you repent, Like it won't just spawn in your soul, laughing my ass off. That's how it works. I mean, what I mean is I want like some kind of revelation within my mind. Like, a piece of evidence or like a detail about history is not going to change my belief. I want like revelation, like I want visions. Boiling says, what other books are on your list? Don Quixote. Too Far says, I just dislike how Christians approach spreading their religion as I hope the truth finds you, as if they've been chosen to receive the truth. I mean, I get it. Like, if you believe that non-believers are going to hell, I would like go really hard about trying to evangelize as many people as possible. It makes sense to me. I wouldn't want people to go to hell forever. Joseph super chatted $2 New Zealand dollars. Thank you, Joseph. Joseph says, maybe it's a sin to donate, or is that blasphemy? I don't know, but thank you, Joseph. Rick says, you won't see a revelation unless you die. Unless I die? I just won't be convinced unless something with my mind happens, like I see a vision or something like that. Dottie says, donate to Don so he can waste it on OF. I don't use OnlyFans, let alone I don't even watch pornography. Rick says, let not turn this into a deconstruction channel, please. You don't want this to be about me arguing against religion. I mean, it's definitely not going to transform into that being the main topic. HV says, apple juice or orange juice? Orange juice. Satan says, hell isn't much worse than what's on earth. Viewer says, stop telling us about yourself, just keep reading our trash. I think that may be good advice. Maybe I should stop rambling about religion. Apologist says, well, division won't come to you. You have to press into your creator. Okay. Lewis says, hello, Father Don. I'm here for today's homily. Hello, Lewis. Dottie says, restart stream. Why? Callie says, yes, lagging. Oh God, it's lagging. Joseph says, it'll sort itself out. Yeah, I hope that's the case. Please, whoever is CEO of YouTube, please make it work. Remember says, it's fine now. Great. Aria says, can you say hi, bestie? No. Lewis says, as always, will you play Minecraft with me? Please, with a nice sweet cherry on top? No, I don't want to. And I'm disappointed that you didn't mention, day 6 of Asking Don. You should have put the day. Shapeshifting says, I am the CEO. I don't believe you. Callie says, hello, Shapeshifting. Yeah, hello, Shapeshifting. Birdie says, what do you do for a career, bruh? Tell us. I'm not gonna say. Joseph says, Minecraft is a $50 dono type thing. $500 type thing. Dottie says, I'm feeling romantic. Okay, I'm not. Russell says, that's confidential. My job. A lot of other personal details are confidential, yes. Truth Lover says, make love to the present, fuck the past. Live in the moment, you're saying? Okay. Zach says, he is a lady of the night. I'm a streetwalker? No, I'm not. Lewis says, I am sorry, Father Don. It is day 6. There you go. You fixed it. Joseph says, you were hiding coke from us the whole time? Not intentionally. Remember says, I love Coca-Cola. Coke Zero sucks. Yeah, that's true. J-Man says, much love, dude. This emoji. I've been depressed lately and you helped out. Glad I could help out. Bugman says, I like the cherry cola. I like the normal cola. Mark says, can you do any impressions? No. Not Numi says, Don is having more personality each stream, less okays. Is that true? Maybe it is. Callie says, I like cherry too. You like cherry cola? Okay. T-Far says, the money is opening you up. Maybe. Heather says, do you remember my comment the other night when I said I'm about to get gas, got a long trip to Japan? Well, I do remember that comment. Caitlin says, Dawn, I'm in a really rough spot with my mental health right now. Your stream has made me feel a little better tonight. I'm glad it's helping you, but obviously though, like, there's better things to help with that, like talking to friends. Birdie says, you look like you're into playing jazz music. I'm not. Dottie says, Dawn loves talking to strangers. Maybe. Sweet says, hi. Hello, Sweet. Dottie says, Dawn, do you still hate black men? I never said that. I'm not racist. Lisa says, are you gay? No. Russell says, took a leak in the sink today, my bad. Okay. Conley says, what do you hate? Passing gas. Louis super chatted 50 MX dollars. Is that Mexico? Is that pesos? Anyways, thank you, Lewis. Lewis says, heck yes, I can donate now. Happy emoji. Yeah, you can. I'm glad that you guys can donate too because I like money. Thank you again, Lewis. Wade says, so that's 50 cents, Don? Okay, I don't think it's pesos. Loss says that's a lot of pesos. Okay. What is the currency? What is MX? Can someone tell me, please? Bugman says $2.72 USD. That's MX $50 to American dollars. Okay. Strawberry says, get a life. I have one. Billy says, hello, I'm back to ask you how your day is going, has been. It's going good. I ate a Big Mac today. It lacked lettuce, but it was still okay. Joseph super chatted 5 New Zealand dollars. Thank you, Joseph. Joseph says, I just like that you point at me when I don't know. Kink type beat. Me pointing sexually arouses you. That's pretty weird. I just feel like I should, visually, there should be something different happening on the screen when someone super chats, you know? So I think pointing is good, but I think it's weird that you're sexually aroused by that. T says, don't kink shame. Okay. Russell Lamster super chatted 5 Canadian dollars. Thank you, Russell. Russell says, I like the pointing too. I mean, I hope you just like it as a visual, like, I hope you don't find it sexually arousing. Like, that's I think that's just plain weird, but I like it as like a visual, like to make things visually different when I get a super chat. Thank you again, Russell Lamster, for your super chat. Ballastior says, Jed said shapeshifting first, not me, and Donnie here is ignoring us. I don't know what you're talking about. Too Far says, the rubric has gone out the door. It has. I kind of thought I was following it. Luis Alvarez super chatted 50 pesos. Lewis says, it's like $2 to $3, 50 pesos. I went out for a drink today, and I left with a new job helping out to manage the bar. Wow, that's really cool. That's like a magical, like spontaneous, awesome thing. I'm glad to hear about that. Thank you, Lewis, for your super chat. Too Far says, don't just manage the bar, Lewis, raise it. Huh. Lauren says, bro loves pointing. I do. Uranus says, hey, handsome, looking slick today. Thank you. Numi says, Don, if you had to pick the best superior chat member, who would it be? Hehehe. I do miss this one chat member named Crystal Moth. He was here for my first stream ever, and he was a motivating dude to have in my chat. Rick super chatted 10 American dollars. Thank you, Rick. Rick says, let's get you 2 free 12 packs of Coke tonight. Thank you, Rick, for your super chat. I mean, I already have plenty of Coke in my abode, but eventually I'll be buying more Coke. And I guess thanks to your super chats, so thank you guys. Thank you, Rick, again for your super chat. Dottie says, I don't like this picture. You changed your profile picture? Okay. Rick says, thumbs up emoji. Thanks again. Leah says, guys, my cat is eating my Christmas tree. Okay, I don't believe that. Too Far says $10 is good for one 12-pack, Rick. I think that's right. I think it would only be one 12-pack, but like if you take into account all super chats, I can buy plenty of 12-packs. Luis Alvarez super chatted 20 pesos. Thank you, Luis. Luis says, does this get us mod? Quirky face emoji. No, it doesn't. I specifically took out, like, give me $1 for mod in the pinned message. Remember when I had that in the pinned message? I took that out intentionally because I'm not giving out mod anymore. Sorry. Thank you again, Lewis. Joshua says, day one of asking him to play me 1v1 in a basketball game. I'm not interested. It's cool though that I read a day one message like asking me to do something after reading Lewis's comment, because he does that. He asks things by days. Joseph says, I would have had mod like 50 times by now. Yes, you've donated a lot. Russell says, congrats, Yap. Congrats, Yap. Am I yapping? Okay. Lewis says, damn it, you can't do this. I started this company. You know how much I sacrificed? Isn't that from Spider-Man? Robot says, wait, don't read the next message. My dead body is barking. What? Too Far says, the real Texas is here. There's someone in the chat named Texas, and you are asking if the real state of Texas is here. I mean, the state of Texas isn't a person, so Mystery says Pepsi is for the weak. I mean, I like Pepsi. Santiago says everyone needs a bidet. I think bidets are better, yeah. Russell says, dude, where's my PJs? I don't know where your pajamas are. Too Far says, don't listen to him, Texas. He's not the state of Texas. That's not a person. It's a state. Texas says, I am. No, you're not. Conley says, you paid $600 for a gaming chair. It was a bit cheaper than that, but it was expensive. I regret it. Texas says, Don may avoid my comments, but he can't avoid the facts. You're not the state of Texas. Dottie says, stupid southerner. Okay. Ballastior says, who the fuck stole my toilet? I don't know who stole your toilet. Mr. McLibtard says, LGBTQ flag emoji. Okay. Lewis says, is there a time limit? Is there slow mode? Yeah, 10 seconds. Chiptree says, I'm the state of Chiptree. You're the state of Chiptree. Okay. Weasel says, did ya see they fig out a way to get electric from the mechanical bending of ice? What? Dottie says, turn slow mode off now. Okay, I'll do that. I'm kind of curious to see what it's like. I'll turn off slow mode. Too Far says no. I should not listen to Dottie and turn off. I shouldn't turn it off. Jeb says, do you know me? I do. I remember you. Stomp says, at Texas, how big are you down there? Okay. You're asking Texas that? Okay. Wade says, all mayhem is about to break loose. Yeah, things get a bit chaotic when I turn off slow mode. I kind of like it though. Robot says, I think water should be illegal to own. Why? I don't think that. Chiptree says spam. Okay. Chiptree says spam. Okay. Chiptree says spamming. I kind of see why maybe slow mode is a good idea, but at the same time, the spam is kind of fun. Just seeing the chat go crazy. Remember says, send super chats as fast as you can. I would like that, but that's probably not wise for you guys. Rain says, finally got my MTF gender confirmation surgery next week. Thank you for being a channel people can ask or say anything. Helps me more than realize. Okay. Splack says, it's insane to see your social progression. Like how I've gotten more popular on YouTube. Dottie says, I need to hear your voice before I sleep. Did you mean that you needed me to read your message before you leave? Well, there you go. Crushed says, you missed 3 of my messages so far. You're so exposed. Are you saying I'm violating my tell or ask me anything message? I don't think I'm violating it. Splack says, no, I meant like how open you are now. It was like watching you walk and now you're running. Back in the day, weeks ago, my streams, I was like more closed off, not, outgoing, but now I'm outgoing. Okay. Ballastior says pink elephant. Okay, are you referencing the song? Elami says, hi Don, when I woke up you already left, crying emoji. Sorry. Christian says, Dexter is hiring new actors, you know? You're saying I look like a serial killer? Or something like that? Okay. Too Far says, if you reinstate slow mode, you should put it at 22 seconds. 22 seconds? I like 10 seconds. Chip Tree says, W. Lewis, W. Lewis, W. Lewis. Okay. Robot says, I am the danger. You're the one who knocks? Okay. Science Channel says hello. Hello, Science Channel. Debbie says, good night. Your channel is progressing nicely. Great job, Don. Thank you, Debbie. Jero says, JDM will win tomorrow. I don't know what you're talking about, but maybe. Scoliosis says, did you watch Kill Tony? I've seen a little bit of it, not much. Luis Alvarez super chatted 20 pesos. Thank you, Luis Alvarez. Luis Alvarez says, I'm an agent of chaos. I mean, so far in the chat, you've been pretty calm, and I appreciate that. I don't think you're an agent of chaos. Oh, actually, you are an agent of chaos. I see you spamming now. Luis Alvarez says, W speed, W speed, W speed. Okay, I take it back. Not Numi says, his dong, the new finger pointer finger. Yes, I point my finger when I read super chats. That guy says, chill the spam. I kind of like the chaos with the spam. I kind of like it. Texas says, Don, I'm a clinical expert, and I think you have a social disorder known as AD. Maybe. Should I see a doctor about it? Like, I think I feel fine. Russell Lamster super chatted 5 Canadian dollars. Thank you, Russell Lamster. Russell Lamster says finger pointing emoji. Thank you for your super chat, Russell Lamster. I appreciate it. And yeah, I like pointing my finger. Joseph says, don't ban Lewis. I wasn't planning to. Too Far says, AD is accumulative digestion. I don't think so. I think it's attention deficit. I think that's what it means. Alumni super chatted 350 New Zealand dollars. Thank you, Alumni. Alumni says, do we still get mod or nah? No, you don't. I took out the give me $1 for mod. I took that out of the pinned message intentionally. I'm not giving out mod anymore, sorry. Thank you for the super chat, Alumni. Luis Alvarez super chatted 20 pesos. Thank you. Luis says, last dono of the night. Subscribe to PewDiePie. I mean, I'm not subscribed. I used to, though. I used to watch all of his videos back in the day. And I haven't heard the term subscribe to PewDiePie in a while. That takes me back. Thanks again for the super chat. Rain sent super chatted 2 Australian dollars. Thank you, Rain. Rain says coffee cup with the word tired on it picture. I mean, I'm not tired, and even if I was, I have this here to wake me up. Thank you again. Matthew says, are you gay? You look gay. I'm not gay. Wani says, which YouTuber do you hate? Which YouTuber do I hate? Quebblecop. I dislike him, not hate. Alumni super chatted 2 New Zealand dollars. Thank you. You sent me a peach emoji. Okay, thank you again. Valley says, do you still like microwaves? Yeah, I like making my food fast, so I use microwaves kind of often, unfortunately. Texas says, are you Nick Fuentes? No, I'm not the leader of the Groiper army. Ballastior says, I want to be gay, but impossible when so deeply closeted. Funny. Dottie says, Don loves Grinder. I don't. Mystery Comment says, how much longer till you will write people's names on your hands for super chats? Thinking emoji. $100 for your face. I have seen people do that, but I hope I never sink so low to do that. No offense to them, but that just seems, I don't like it. Crystal says, what would piss you off? There is something I could say, but I don't want you to do it. I don't want people to do it, so I'm not going to say. Scoliosis says, do you like forks or spoons better? Forks. Chiptree says, bye, Don. I'm going to go get my grades up. Wave emoji. I hope you're successful in that. Bye, Chiptree. Splack says, it gives sub energy. You're not a fan of the, like, writing your people's names on your body? Okay. Dottie says, can I have a goodnight kiss? No way. Callie says, you should get a Jules gift next to the cash button. I intentionally made it so you are not able to give me gifts. I've seen people, like, give gifts and it covers, like, the screen. I don't want that. Splack says, don't imply I don't like subs. You like Subway sandwiches? Santiago Loyola super chatted $2 American dollars. Thank you, Santiago. Santiago says, do you have any talents or will you only read chat? Do I have any talents? Will I do anything else besides this? I mean, for the foreseeable future, I only see myself doing these streams. I could evolve, though, into, like, me streaming in real life, like, walking around. And I could do gaming stuff, but I'm not so sure about that. By the way, I don't have any cool talents, like, I can't even juggle. So, thanks again for your super chat, Santiago. Too Far says, I like the way you animated walking around. Okay. M Dragon says, Don, should I buy Aston Martin or a Trackhawk? Trackhawk. Scoliosis says, I'll teach you how to play guitar, buddy, or drums. I'm good, but thank you. I appreciate it. Lewis super chatted 20 pesos. Thank you, Lewis. Lewis says, good night, chat. Enjoy the rest of Father Don's homily. I don't know what a homily is. Also, I thought you gave your last super chat a bit ago, but I'm glad that you lied. Thank you again, Lewis. Play says, please send me money to buy my sister a Switch. Sorry, I'm not, but I like that you have, like, a good plan to do with the money. Like, you're not just going to spend it on something stupid. M Dragon says, just submitted the order for my Trackhawk. Salute emoji. I don't know what that is. I just thought it sounded cool, so that's why I said it. Callie sent a super sticker, $2, microphone emoji. A microphone emoji. That reminds me, I would like to get a microphone to, like, put in my polo shirt, because right now I'm using my phone. I'm sure a microphone attached to my polo shirt would be better. Thank you again, Callie, for your generous super chat. Matthew says, will you not be surprised who is in the Epstein files? I Will I be surprised? I think I will. Callie says, a mic would be good. I think it would too. Ballastior says, shh, Prem has a lie for us to read. Someone in the chat has something worth reading, like for me to read, named Prem. Okay. Stomp says Betty White was in the Epstein files. Betty White, isn't that a fictional character? Colin says, when it's someone's birthday, do you pretend to sing along to Happy Birthday? No, I use my real voice. I'm not afraid. Scoliosis says, you will be bigger than Speed. No, I won't. Wade says, anybody said you resemble Fonzie? No, I forget who Fonzie is. That sounds familiar though. Anime says, what's your favorite anime? Do you watch it? I like Studio Ghibli movies. I like Spirited Away. I haven't gotten into shows. Play says, thank you, sir. Prang emoji, best streamer. Thank you. Mufsa says, he does not resemble Fonzie. I don't? Okay. Prem says B. The letter B. Okay. Wade says Fonzie is off Grease. Grease? Like the movie Grease? Or I don't think there's a character named Grease and a character named Fonzie in Grease. Texas says, looks like E.T. to me. I look like E.T. No, I don't. T says, do you think Bill Nye, the science guy, should get a presidential pardon? Or do you think he should have to defend himself? He has charges. I didn't know that he had charges. Jim says, have you played Skyrim? No, but I heard it was a good game. Matt says, Bill Nye the Science Guy is dead. I don't think that's true. Wade says, oh yeah, Happy Days. My bad. Okay, the character named Fonzie from Happy Days. I don't know what you're talking about. Joe Black says, should we vote Taylor Swift off the island? Should we exile Taylor Swift from the island? I don't know what you're talking about. Alumni says, have you seen the first 2 Terminator movies? Yes. Callie says, there's Danny, Puts, and Nikki. I'm not familiar with that. Musa says, Arthur Fonzarelli. Henry Winkler, I'm from Milwaukee. Don't know what you're talking about. Plays says, do you have Steam? And if you do, what game? I have Rainbow Six Siege on Steam. Matthew Grimm super chatted $2. Thank you. Matthew says, sure you're not gay? I have seen you on Grindr. I'm not gay. That must have been a lookalike. Also, thank you for being my first super chat. That's like accusing me or asking me if I'm gay. It was only a matter of time. Thanks again, Matthew. Santiago says, I think you should do a movie commentary. I think that'd be fun. Maybe. I kind of like this thing though, like just focusing on this. Ballastior says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Too Far says 7. Brown says 7. Ballastior says 8. You guys were counting up. Interesting. Mystery Comment says, let's all submit Dawn to go on Survivor. No, not Survivor. Not Fish Tank. Maybe a Mr. Beast thing. Lewis says, how can I become a pastor in the chat? You can't do that. Hot says, do you have an agent now, Don? No. Jero super chatted $2 American. Thank you, Jero. You ever see Smiling Friends? You're Alan. I haven't seen Smiling Friends. I know what it is though. I don't know. I don't know Alan from Smiling Friends. Let me look who Alan is. Okay, Alan is this thin, like warm-looking dude. That's who I remind you of. Okay, thank you again for your super chat. William says, "Can you say 6'7"? I'm not doing the gesture." SP says, "You look like you fight 1770 medical folks with pitchforks for a living." What? Too Far says, "I strongly disliked Mr. Beast." I did too in the past. I was this anti-Mr. Beast guy in the past. Like, I hated him, but now I'm like indifferent. Jamal DeQuifa says, "What did you think of my edit?" I thought it was solid. I liked how you included a Big Mac in there. And like the way you edited my face on those people and like the variety of faces you had put on the bodies, that was cool. I liked it. Diffuse says Edward. I look like Edward Cullen. Okay. Jamal DeQuifa says thank you. You're welcome. Border says, "Do you like Ireland?" Sure. Texas says, "Don, tell Jamal to pipe down." No, if I ever were to do that, it would be to Dottie. Just kidding. I don't ever need to tell anyone to pipe down in the chat. Say whatever you want, guys. Remember says, "Mr. Beast chocolate bars don't taste good. Thumbs down emoji." I don't like chocolate, so I've never tried them. Plays says, "You look like a type of guy to play Geometry Dash and eat marshmallows." Anyway, see you, brother. Bye, Plays. Callie says, "I'm a tell Dottie, haha, JK." Okay. Lewis says, "I'm sorry, but you made me do this. I know now what I must become." I don't know what you're talking about. Bart says, "Are you the brother of a loser?" No. Stomp says, "Happy Days is an old show from the 70s where they played like they were in the 50s." Okay, so it was a show set in the 50s, but it was made in the 70s? Okay. Raz says, "Gay boy." You're gay? Okay. Too Far says, "Are you the brother of a winner?" Yes. Jamal says, "I have an album of your faces in every single angle of my phone, so I can get all of my edits perfect." That's pretty cool. Texas says, "Don is related to Nick Fuentes." Isn't he like Latin? Maybe. Wade says, "I love when Don talks shit back." I mean, did I talk shit back? I don't think I conspicuously did. T says, "Can you make a subreddit?" I think what we have here, this chat, is like enough. Like, I don't see the point of a subreddit. That just seems like bloat. Alumni says, "Do you watch any sports?" No. Callie sent a super sticker along with $1.50 American dollars. Thank you. The super sticker is a burger, which reminds me of the Big Mac and reminds me of how good it is and makes me think of how sad I am that that's my favorite food. Anyways, though, thank you for the super chat, Callie. Femboy says, "The phrase jumped the shark is a reference to the show Happy Days and is meant to convey the point in a show where it peaked before going down in quality." This is my first stream I ever received super chats. So maybe this is like where this YouTube channel is jumping the shark. Literally, maybe. Like, I wonder how super chats will affect the stream. I'm happy about them because I get money, but maybe it's a bad thing for the stream. Colin says, have you ever chased down a mouse? No. Scoliosis says, I'm witnessing history. Yeah. Texas says, Don, I have a 5K walk today with the American Heart Association. Should I bring my dog with me? Sure. Callie says, smiles for money, I see. Yeah, I'm a sinful human. Wade says, super chats is the only thing for the stream. I'm not sure what you mean. Border says, I've chased plenty of rats. Okay. Darksea says, glad to see the stream working today. How are you? I'm good, Darksea. Ali super chatted 10 Canadian dollars. Thank you, Ali. Ali says, Don, this is for a Big Mac. Burger emoji. Thank you, Ali. I appreciate it. I'll probably have one the day after tomorrow, Sunday. Yeah. Thank you again, Ali. I appreciate it. Callie super chatted $2 with a superhero lemon guy picture and a little baby admiring him. Okay. Thank you for your super chat. Thunder says, I'm gay. Okay. Mystery Comment says, Don, for the first time walk around stream, for the first real life in-person walking around stream, you got to go to McDonald's and get a Big Mac. I may not do that. I don't like it when people eat on stream. Cordes says, you should listen to Cat's Eye and Cordis or watch a short clip of their songs. Thank you for the recommendation. Cat's Eye, okay. Too Far says, do you chat in other streams or just watch? I used to be a chatter, but for whatever reason, for these past few months, I've just been a lurker. Raphael says, Don, do you support the LGBT? Yeah. The Revenation says, can I get some brains up in the chat? Spike got that bony in grandma's diaper wipey? What? Ballastior says, don't worry, I promise I will never send you a super chat. I mean, I would prefer if you did, but I'm glad that you're doing what you want. Callie says, I lurked too, but now I chat, haha, and donate. Thank you again. Jordan says, gnarly. Okay. Skills says, bros got to be on the spectrum. No, I'm not. Lewis says, good night now, Don, for real this time. Bye, Lewis. Muntaha says, are you broke? No. Pink says, which Charlie XCX album do you like? I haven't listened to them, but maybe eventually I will. Wade says, Rev Nation speaking on another live streamer that's a crazy meth head. Rev Nation is another live streamer? Okay. Scoliosis says, are you 5'6" or 6'1"? I'm 5'7". Stomp super chatted 5 American dollars. Thank you, Stomp. Stomp says, earlier you said you saw one of your viewers in someone else's live stream. Have you ever seen me in other live streams? I have. I was watching a Matthew live stream, and this dude gifted a bunch of memberships, and one of the people that received a membership was you. I remember seeing that. Rick says, I won't go 7. Okay. Too Far says, OMG, he's talking about me. Yeah, Stomp was talking about you. Ballastior says, where is Jed? I'm getting bored now. Who's Jed? Cody says, what's your favorite movie? Eyes Wide Shut. Shannon says, do you have fake teeth? No, I don't. Shouldn't it be obvious? Aren't they like yellow? If I had fake teeth, I think they'd be white. Callie says he's seen me too, haha. Yeah, I saw you in Kevin Yellow's chat. Too Far says, is your favorite movie the last one you watched? Yes. Political says, get that yam off your face. Yam? What yam? Thunder says, do you support me being gay? Yeah. Mystery says, you don't gotta eat right away on stream, it's the adventure. I mean, if I do like hour-long streams, real life streams, then I guess eventually I'll have to eat, so. Ilumi says, do you watch any Twitch streamers? No, I don't. I never really got into Twitch. Detailed says, you wear a face mask for facial care? I don't. Dark says, you should read us a book. That sounds boring, but thank you for the recommendation. Jamal DeQuifa says, can we have a Chick-fil-A live stream at the Freaky Mall bathroom? No. You're still asking this? Femboy says, do you like YouTube Drama Slop? Yeah, I am subscribed to Dolan Darkus, and he does this thing called Slop Live, I think, and he talks about slop. I'm also kind of was invested in like the whole Emaru Mizkif thing, so I am into slop. Too Far says, when's the last time you bought something online? I think it was the phone stand I'm using. That was like 2 weeks ago. Cody says, W YouTuber? Thank you. Muntaha says, are you Freaky Don? No. Femboy says, fucking based, laughing my ass off. Thank you, Femboy. I'm gonna end the stream now. Bye.